Welcome in, everybody, to the podcast. This is the Arky Shea experience. I'm going to take off these glasses. I don't need them. I'm telling you that, by the way, because I'm on the video, too. If you want to check that out over on the YouTube, Arky Shea, Arkyshea is how you find me. I'm also going to take off these headphones because they're not going to help me either. Actually, I'm just going to keep them on. I don't know. They made me look cool. They made me look super cool. Maybe I put them on like a real person wears headphones. That might help me. That might not. Anyway, welcome into the experience. I just said that. Let's have a lot of fun, okay? I'm bringing this podcast into you with one thought in mind: love. I want to lovingly tell you how you lost your ever loving minds and your behinds and wallets when you bet a certain game in the NFL this weekend. But before I get to that, this is a disclaimer. This podcast isn't for everybody. It's sports betting. So let's talk sports betting, but let's talk it on a level where you and I, if you're a beginner at this, sort of understood what happened. Now, I say that to you also because if you're a sports bettor that is like me, that's super deep into this may not be the podcast for you. Okay, this is going to be more of an introductory, layman's terms discussion of what happened in that game. It won't be filled with all the jargon that you love to talk. I don't know if you're aware of this. I write for a company called Outkick and Outkick Bets, and all I do is just stare at lines, totals, spreads, all this stuff all the time. And I do this because I love money, right? I love making money. It's the reason I do this. Okay, it's not because it makes me look cool, like I'm the modern version of like smoking a cigarette next to my Stang. It's not that. It's because I like money and I like making money. I like using whatever sports knowledge I have to make money and not just throw things at the TV when things don't go my way. So I do this also because I get a lot of messages that I didn't expect to get from those who read my stuff on Outkick Bets that are very interested in sports betting but aren't exactly hip to the game. We forget that sports betting is legal in less than half the states. So the amount of people that are primed to be discussing this and talking about it could be exploding over the next how many ever years, right? So let's talk to you. Let's talk to you who also need to just learn a little bit about something that's unique and different in sports betting. Something that's pretty rare that happened over the weekend. Now, I should tell you this. I'm not going to talk a lot of sports betting on this podcast. I mean, reference it here or there, but this was pretty unique and rare that I think it merits a pretty cool discussion. So, without further ado, here is what happened. The Patriots and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They opened the line spread, also known as the spread, at 7 points, which means that if you want to make money on this game using the spread, you think that the Patriots are at least better than the Buccaneers, or at least vice versa. The Patriots are worse than the Buccaneers by at least 7 points. So essentially, you think the Patriots are going to be outscored by 8 or more. You can bet the other side and think they're going to lose by less than that, but let's focus on the big picture, shall we? The Buccaneers are better than the Patriots. Look at them. Just look at all that hunky man meat. You got better skill position players. You got better and deeper offensive line. Your defense is playing through the roof, especially on the defensive line. You got Tom Brady. You got the dude they keep calling some animal. I don't know, the monkey or something. I don't know what they keep calling him. They keep calling him the best. So what's not to like? Right? If you're staring at this from a 10,000 foot view, what is not to like? They are so much better than the Patriots. It'd be a crime to think that they were going to not be at least 7 points better. It's the biggest game of the week. Every game that Sunday was leading to this one. The Titans and the Jets was leading to this one. The Texans and the Bills was leading to this one. The Cowboys and Panthers all leading to Sunday Night Football, where it's Brady versus Bill. Right? And not only is the team better, the revenge factor is better. Tom Brady wants to go into this old stomping grounds and beat the curb snot out of Bill Belichick and his old team. They kicked his fanny out the door and prematurely. They gave up on Tom, and Tom didn't give up on them. Now Tom is pissed. Of course they're going to come in and blow their doors off. Revenge plus a much better team? Light it up, son. You lost it there. Because normally that kind of makes a lot of sense. Even from a football standpoint, that makes a lot of sense. It makes sense to go with the better team in general to win. And even though they did win, they didn't, as we say, cover. And so, with that number 7 being so magical, because it's what's also known as a key number. And a key number, there's a couple of them, 7 and 3, which are what most games margins end by. Or, it's also the number of points that can be scored in a possession. 3 or 7. Right? So, it all points to the right number to be paying attention to. And so while you put all of your energy thinking that Tom is much better, and that this game is the biggest game of all big games, in fact, it's arguably the biggest regular season game ever for NFL. Maybe sort of mirroring Favre's comeback to Green Bay. Maybe, this is probably even better because Brady won so much more. I mean, the Patriots normally credential about 300 people for a home game. They credentialed 600 people for this game. All eyes were on this, more than just the normal NFL on Sunday night eyes, which is a ton already. Everybody's eyes were on this. But your eyes should have been on the spread. Because when that number opened at 7 on Sunday night, last Sunday night, and going into Monday, a curious thing happened. That number stayed at 7 every single day of the week. It didn't move, it didn't fluctuate, it didn't do nothing. Like them double negatives, it didn't do nothing. And it should have been doing things. If you look at how certain people like to make money. Those certain people are Las Vegas and the sports books. Now, I'm air quoting Las Vegas particularly there. If you watch on the video feed, again, search Arky Shea. Those sports books in Vegas kept that number at 7, despite the fact that all of you, statistically speaking, all of you thought the Buccaneers were at least a touchdown favorite better than the Patriots. At least. Please, no problem. This is probably a 14, 17 point game. Tom's going to crush his old team. Not for Vegas. The number was 7, and 70, 80, 91 sportsbook reported at one time that 95% of your bets were on the Buccaneers -7, which means 95%, maybe 97 by the time we got to it, of you thought that the Buccaneers were going to crush his old team. And that's not good for one of you. Either the sports book or for you. So, normally when a number has that kind of, quote, liability, which is, again, how much money is on one side, Vegas likes to even their odds by moving the number. So a number at 7 that all of a sudden has 90% people betting on it, most likely, almost always pushes up to 8. 8.5, maybe even higher. So you get that number from 90% liability closer to 50% because more people start saying, okay, they're 7-point favorites, sure, and they're definitely better than them than 8, but maybe not 9 and 10. So then you start seeing more bets come in on the other side, the Patriots side, which says, I'm going to bet the plus 9 or 10. Think the Patriots will probably lose, but just not by that much, right? And if they win, more power to me. But the number never reflected the liability. The number stayed at 7. And that was fishy. That was fishy to me because Las Vegas sportsbooks were all in on this bet. No more money happened on any other game than on this one. This was by far the biggest bet game of the weekend and of the season. No questions asked. Not even a close number 2. So Vegas / sportsbooks were set to lose a whole bunch of money if you were right. If you were right and the Buccaneers won by at least 8 points, they were going to have to pay out 95% of the money. Normally that's closer to like 50, 55, maybe even 60% tops. They were going to have to pay out 95%. That is almost all of it. So what do they know? Did they know more about Rob Gronkowski's ribs than we knew at first? Because remember, we found out Rob Gronkowski's ribs were x-rayed as negative and said he was fine. That was on Sunday. Monday goes, Tuesday goes, number stays. Wednesday, Thursday, all of a sudden, Rob Gronkowski not traveling with the team. Number still stays at 7. Defensive secondary for Tampa Bay. Rubbish. Thin-wise, that is. Stayed at 7. Why? What did they know? Was it the weather? Number stayed at 7. It was a chance of rain back when they were projecting this last week. Still, number stayed at 7. So I don't always sort of look at this in a prism of how much one side has money versus the other to tell me which side to bet. Because the public's not always wrong and Vegas is not always right. Vegas Sportsbook, air quote. They're not always right. But when there's that much money / liability for those guys to have to pay us, there's something up. So that's why when I sprinkled money on the money line and then definitely hammered down on the plus 7, it was a risk. Because if you were right and I was wrong, and Vegas was wrong too, well, a whole lot of happy people coming into Monday. But they weren't. It's weird how that happens, right? You know, everyone likes to say Vegas is like spot on all the time. That's recency bias. Watch all kinds of spreads. They're way off all the time. But watch where the money goes around. Sometimes it's a large enough disparity that'll really make you question what you're thinking in your head. Because I know people who I told, hey, this plus 7 is something I'm on because the minus 7, there's too much liability for one side. I don't like it. They still told me, yeah, but the Patriots are nowhere near as good as the Bucs. Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. Follow the money. Are you betting on one of these sports apps yet? They're pretty nice, right? Have you done the FanDuel one? It's a pretty nice app. Have you done the Caesars? The DraftKings? Pretty nice apps. Have you been to Las Vegas ever? Pretty cool fountains. Pretty nice casinos. Some nice hotels there. Where'd they get all this money? It's not all from the penny slots. Watch the number. Not necessarily the spread number, but how it correlates with the movement of the line throughout the week of money. And if you get a whole bunch of money going one way and the line stays this, that should be a red flag to you. Now, these don't happen a lot. They're pretty rare because if Vegas lost, that's a bloodbath. That is a absolute bloodbath. You would have taken them to the cleaners faux show. That doesn't happen a bunch, but sometimes. More often, though, we as the public are on the wrong side. But you don't have to be one of them. You could have been like me and brought a little bit of money home to the missus because you were paying attention to where all the money was at. And it did not favor the Buccaneers. And we got richer, baby. Because we paid attention to what we really should be paying attention to. As Don Allmeyer once said, former head of NBC, the answer to all your problems is money.